And we are back, and as promised, joined by Matt Zahn, sports anchor and reporter for WBBM CBS 2 in Chicago. You can find him on Twitter and Instagram at Matt Zahn Sports. Matt, thank you so much for joining us today.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Yeah, this is going to be cool. I mean, so Bears minicamp, mandatory minicamp just wrapped up on Thursday, and from a fan's perspective, there seems to be a positive vibe. You know, we hear from the coaches, the players, the beat is all positive for a change. You know, is that the kind of vibe you're getting from Halas Hall?
Yeah, definitely positive vibe would be the way to say it. And, you know, I think a lot of it is it's been a lot of negativity for a lot of years up there. I've been basically on the beat since 2016 now, and other than the little blip in 18, there hasn't been a lot. So, you know, you add all these offensive weapons, you add a defense that seems to have everything in place, and the number one pick. There's reason for optimism finally after there hasn't been a lot.
Yeah, the optimism is definitely sky high. We haven't seen this since I think Matt Nagy's second year. You know, when you kind of expect the 100th anniversary team, everyone expected big time there, and you know, let's just move on. So it wouldn't be me if I didn't start on the O-line. That's kind of my thing. I love talking the trenches. So Tevin Jenkins, man, he talked contract a little bit. He kind of mentioned that he kind of had something. His people reached out to the Bears, was not reciprocated. You know, what do you think it'll take for Tevin Jenkins to get a new deal in Chicago?
I think it's all about being healthy. I think that's the reason he doesn't have the new deal yet. I think if he'd been healthy most of the time, he would have it. He's done when he's been healthy. He's been done everything they've asked of him. Move positions, even last year, switching on both sides of the offensive line. He's been very good at it. But you know, the back and other injuries have been a concern. So if he can show he's healthy, I don't see any reason why they wouldn't lock him up. You know, given that a guards deal probably isn't going to be breaking the bank anyways.
Yeah, I mean, we saw a little uptick in interior guys this last offseason, but, you know, with his history, you know, people are going to look at that and pay him accordingly. You talk about injury. Another guy that kind of has some injury issues is Nate Davis. You know, he did not fully participate in the minicamp. Is this a conditioning thing with him now, or is there an injury there?
That's a great question. It's been a kind of a talk up there, a lot of talk about Nate Davis. He's kind of one of the mysteries on this team. You know, last year he was dealing with sort of like the mental health thing where he was away for a while. And, you know, we've heard even from his former team, he's maybe not a guy who loves to practice all the time. And honestly, that's certainly what we've seen. Matt Eberflus wouldn't say anything about a ramping up or any specific injury, but in the whole time we were out there, we only saw, I believe, one offensive series in the 11-on-11 was the only time that Nate Davis was out on the field. Most of the time, he's been there a little bit, at least. He was there last week OTAs. He was there for all mandatory minicamp. But most of the time, he's been off to the side, you know, just holding his, not even having a helmet with him. And I thought it was interesting that Matt Nagy didn't like 100% say that he's for sure their starting right guard. I mean, I know that's the way he talks normally. He says there's competition everywhere, but I wouldn't pencil in Nate Davis other than that he's making a lot of money.
Yeah, I mean, he's making like, I think, $10 million this year. Yeah. So I think his roster spot's pretty safe. I don't know if you caught this up. Pro Football Focus just recently named Nate Davis one of their top 32 guards heading into this next season, which I wasn't quite sure about that. But so let's say Nate Davis was not out there at minicamp. You know, who was kind of filling in those reps at guard?
They would put Ryan Bates out there sometimes. They were rotating him and Coleman Shelton at center, and Ja'Tai Carter was also getting some work out there. And they had a bunch of other guys kind of rotating in. I guess my guess is, I mean, my guess is still that Nate Davis is your starter. You're paying a lot of money, and when he's been on the field, he's been fine. I think that's the way they go, unless for some reason maybe they decide to go Coleman Shelton at center and Bates at guard. But I would guess it's still Davis.
Yes, it seems like they really want Bates to be the center. Is that kind of how it's been there? I know they've kind of rotated him, but has it been mostly Bates with the ones?
I think it's been a pretty clean rotation. They're pretty split, which they've done a lot in this time of year. I think they just want to get a look at both guys. My guess would be Bates at center to get to especially more in training camp, but they'll mix guys in there a lot. They like to have options.
A lot of times you want to say you follow the money, but you look at Bates, I think he's making $4 million a year. They got Shelton, I think $3.5 million. So they're pretty comparable. Bates, of course, was the draft pick. They traded for him. So I'm like you. I think Bates may be the guy there.
Right. I was just going to say, I think Poles seems like a kind of GM though that would be willing to maybe, he seems to be willing to make admit when he's made mistakes, like he's done with Chase Claypool. But this would be a pretty big one if
I think regardless, though, the center should be much better than what we saw last year for sure.
Right. Yeah. Let's hope we can get the snaps to Caleb Williams, unlike the issues we had last year.
That's huge. Let's jump over to D-line.
Okay.
Rookie Austin Booker, he's getting a lot of hype. The coaches talk about him. His teammates talk about him. We heard Montez Sweat kind of give him some praise. It's early, obviously, in the offseason. But do you think Austin Booker will push for some time you're rushing the passer?
Yeah, I would guess so. As you said, it's early. They're not wearing pads. It's hard to judge exactly what the defensive linemen are doing because the offensive linemen are pretty helpless against them without pads on. But he did show some flashes out there. He's got great size. My guess, and I think the guess of most people, is they bring in another veteran pass rusher. I wouldn't be surprised if it's Yannick again coming back. But if he's not, then there's a pretty good chance. If they don't bring anybody in, there's a good chance they're going to need Booker right from the start.
I mean, the Bears signed a couple younger free agents.
Yeah.
Dominique Robinson is still there. Did he do anything at all? I know some fans were high on him when he first came out, but
funny. We did see him a lot out there, and he seemed to be making plays. I would think this is a big camp for him to try to show something because he just hasn't shown enough with a decent amount of opportunities. I think at this point.
A real good athlete. Obviously, he has the upside there. That's why he was drafted, but. Through 2 years now, just hasn't really done a lot there.
Yeah.
Staying with edge, DeMarcus Walker, he had a nice finish to the year last year when they got Montez Sweat. Was he kind of playing more defensive end, or did he kind of kick inside a little bit as well during the
he's been mostly on the outside during camp, and he's definitely, you probably heard a lot about the defense being loud, boisterous, annoying out there. He's kind of leading that charge. He certainly seems motivated to show that he can maybe be that other edge rusher, but I feel like unfortunately in game situations he hasn't really shown enough that you want to count on him every week to get to the quarterback.
There was some buzz about the Bears possibly going defensive tackle, maybe looking for a new 3-tech, but they kind of stood pat. I mean, do you think they're content with second-year pro Javon Dexter at that 3-tech spot?
Yeah, you talk about guys that flash in minicamp, and again, we always preface it that you can't get too much into it, but he is a guy that he looks the part. He's changed his body. He's bigger, leaner, and he has gotten all the praise from all the coaches and even his teammates. I think he could be a guy that really flashes once we get into camp and maybe going into this season. So, we all know how important 3 technique is in the Matt Eberflus defense. I think they really like what they have in Javon Dexter. And again, remember, this is a guy that didn't really do that. Like, he played a totally different style at Florida. So last year, a lot of learning for him. Now that he kind of knows what's up, I would expect a big season from Dexter.
Nice. So the trench is out of the way. Let's talk about, the sensational rookie, obviously the generational talent. And I'm talking about the punter, Tory Taylor, who we've seen like 3 or 4 clips, but every one of his clips that the Bears share, it's just a booming punt. It's pinning him down line. Has he been as good as advertised?
Yeah, honestly, at these practices, a lot of times when special teams comes out there, that's the time we take a break, not really watching everything. But Tory Taylor has been must see. I believe it was the Wednesday of this week. It was pretty windy up there, and he was working on just getting the ball inside, 5-10 yard line, and he was consistently pinning it down there. And I've never seen anybody have like the side spin that he had in the ball, like even one of his kicks, one of his few ones, it was a touchback, was as impressive as anything. The ball sort of just bounces and rolls along the sideline the whole way. So he sure seems like a guy who could be a weapon. And who knows, maybe he's a guy they use on kickoffs too with that new rule.
Oh, that's a good point. Yeah, there's some talk about, some teams are maybe having a safety do the kickoff stuff.
I don't think anybody knows what they're doing with that yet.
I mean, it's such a weird rule. I mean, it's like I've looked into it, but it's not the same as the XFL rule. There's some changes. Yeah. It's like, who knows what they're going to do, but regardless, it should make kickoffs fun again for a change.
Yeah. Well, these are much different athletes in the XFL too. This is another level up. I think we're going to see a lot of crazy stuff with that, especially early in the year.
Velus Jones is probably going to have an impact finally. I
mean, that's probably keeping him on the roster.
All right. So let's get into the quarterback. Obviously, Caleb Williams, before we get to the on-field stuff, at his presser on Thursday, it was a fun one. I mean, he had a lot of fun with it. He's joking with the media there. He's really embraced his role with the Chicago Bears, hasn't he?
Yeah. Yeah. I think this is a phrase that Matt Eberflus uses a lot, but it fits him perfectly. That you can see he's comfortable in his own skin. This is a guy that's been in the spotlight for a long time. and he enjoys it. That doesn't seem to get stressed out, bothered him much. He seems calm, cool, and collected at the press conference, and that's kind of the way he acts on the field as well. You don't see him getting too frustrated out there. He just goes at it, gets the next one again. But like this is a kid with great personality. I think everyone's just hoping that the talent on the field at the NFL level matches it.
What a change in narrative, though. I mean, leading up to the whole offseason, a lot of, I won't say a lot. It was a contingent of fans very worried about Caleb Williams, the stuff they heard. I mean, a lot of it was proved to be false, but what he's shown us so far during his time as a Bear is nothing what these negative Nancy's were talking about, leading up to the draft.
Right. And I think, any concern there ever was where Caleb doesn't want to come to Chicago. I think that comes from, this is a guy that just knows what he wants. He's well prepared by his dad and his team, and they just wanted to make sure they were going to an organization that was sort of ready for him, and the Bears got everything in place. They have it in place for him. So I don't think they're, all those concerns were certainly overblown.
Yeah, it sounds like it. So he's been up and down at practice. Yeah. I mean, that's what all the guys are talking about. I mean, that's expected, though. I mean, but it seems like the few clips are talking about where the highs, they're really highs. Like his arm talent's is really flashing out there on the field, isn't it?
I would agree with that. The flashes are stuff we maybe haven't seen up there in a few years. Zipping it into tight windows has been a couple of times. You're like, just whoa, you got that one in there, nice. And Thursday in their little red zone drill, just beautiful touch on a throw over the defensive back to Roma Dunze in the end zone. Like the flashes have been great. As you said, there have been some struggles. I think it was our first open OTA. We got to see him against the veterans. A little jarring how much they struggled, but he was under pressure a lot. The defensive line was in there all day. So, I mean, there's going to be some downs with it, but he has certainly flashed is the right word, I think, for it.
I'm glad you mentioned that some of the highs are really, having the powerful arm strength to get in there, but also the touch. That's kind of one of the things that a lot of the scouts said about him is he knows, when to take something off the football, doesn't he?
Yeah, and sort of unprompted, some of the defensive guys that have talked about him when asked just in general what they've seen from Caleb, touch has been one of the big ones, along with the obvious arm talent. But yeah, he really does seem to show that.
There's been a little talk about his problem with the cadence. His command in the huddle. That's normal, though. I mean, this is a rookie. He didn't do it in college. I mean,
that's the big thing. Yeah, I would say not doing it in college. As they clap. They don't really do the cadence. They get the call from the sidelines. He said he did it in high school, I believe. So I think that's not really an issue. It's just something that's going to take some getting used to. He hasn't done it in a while.
So every time the Bears share one of these clips, obviously they're only sharing the highlights. It's Caleb throwing to DJ Moore, Keenan Allen, Gerald Everett has been highlighted, Khalil Herbert. There are so many talented players on this offense. So in your opinion, what is the ceiling for this offense in Caleb's rookie year?
That is an excellent question. Gosh, it's so hard to say. Obviously I think he has the talent, but I think CJ Stroud maybe last year fooled us a little bit because it's really hard to come in. Most rookies don't come in and are great right away. I think if Caleb can come along, obviously the schedule is not too difficult early in the year. If he can get comfortable, the ceiling is this offense to be very good. It seems like it's all on him, a little bit on the offensive line if they can get that sorted out. But everything's there for it to be a good offense. Obviously, there's a lot of unknowns. We don't know much about Shane Waldron yet. And we'll have to see how Caleb comes along. But yeah, the weapons are in place for the Bears offense to be finally a good offense.
I mean, the Bears records as a quarterback position are pretty bad. Right. I mean, obviously it's talked about quite a bit, but the rookie records, I mean, those are so bad too.
Yeah.
I mean, those are definitely in reach for Caleb. He should at least be the best rookie quarterback in history of the franchise.
Yeah, okay. I thought you were going to say the history of the NFL. I'm like, wow, that's at least. No. Yeah. The Bears rookie records are not that much. I would say that's a pretty good bar to set for him. I would expect him to be good. I would just say, temper expectations, which is impossible. But
I have one more question before I get you out here again. Okay. I really appreciate the time.
Yeah, no problem.
You mentioned earlier, man, that annoying defense. We've heard the defensive guys talk about how they want to be annoying. They're really chippy. The offensive talks about it as well. So those guys are talking about trash. They're making it tough for that offense, aren't they?
Yeah, iron sharpens iron has been the phrase they're throwing around a lot out there. Yeah, this is a good defense. I mean, maybe going top 5 is a little risky just because defenses tend to, there was a lot of turnovers last year, so be careful with that. But there's a lot of talent on that side, a lot of veterans. I think the big thing, especially early in camp, it's the guys that have been in the system now for 3 years while they're all learning a new offense. But yeah, they've been loud. They've been having fun out there. There was even a little skirmish in one of the practices at minicamp, nothing too major. But yeah, that group definitely brings the energy. It's kind of funny because a lot of big personalities on the defensive side, big loud personalities, but we've noticed not much on the offensive side. I don't think that's a problem or anything. It's just that leads to the defense yelling a lot and the offense not saying much.
Well, I think normally the guys on offense that are mouthy are the receivers, but the Bears,
right, but they don't really have that.
Yeah, DJ Keenan, they're all kind of laid back guys, just kind of do their job. So that's kind of interesting there. So, they talked about having a goal to have 20 interceptions and 20 fumble recoveries. That's pretty lofty expectations, but I think this unit, if things come together, I think that's possible.
Yeah, one of the little sneaky things that came up in minicamp was Kevin Byard talking about how he wants and they want the safeties to sort of be more positionless this year, switching free and strong to try to confuse the quarterback a little bit more. So maybe that frees up Jaquan Brisker to make more plays. Obviously turnovers in the NFL can be fluky, but there's no reason this unit shouldn't be producing a lot of them. Again, a lot of that's on the pass rush, and I still think they're going to bring in another guy there.
Yeah, probably Ngakoue. That's the buzz. That's the talk.
Yeah,
so
man,
awesome stuff, man. I really appreciate you joining us and sharing some of the stuff you saw.
All right. I appreciate you having me. Thanks.
All right, man.